Hi, I'm Daniel Gold, and welcome to the Gold Standard Leadership Lab. By day, I'm a partner at a leading advisory firm where I draw upon my background as an attorney to help my clients succeed. This podcast, though, is my personal project, completely separate and apart from my day job, but reflects the same passion that I exhibit everywhere for teaching, mentoring, and helping others succeed through simple, impactful lessons. It is my hope that you'll walk away with practical takeaways to help you on your leadership journey. Thanks for being a part of this community and for joining me in the Leadership Lab. Let's get started. You know, some weeks just land on you all at once. Not dramatically, not with a single catastrophic moment you can point to and say, that's where it went sideways. Just a slow accumulation of obligations, commitments, and circumstances that all converge at the same time, and suddenly you realize you're carrying more than your usual load while also running a slight fever and falling behind on the habits that normally keep you sharp. And I want to let you all know that I had one of those weeks recently. My calendar was full. I have travel coming up and commitments to organizations that I care very deeply about, communities that I have said yes to because I genuinely want to give back, and a milestone personal goal bearing down on me. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, my meditation practice quietly disappeared. My journaling, which is normally one of the most consistent anchors, got sloppy. My food tracking, which I've been very diligent about for years, well, it basically stopped. By any measure of my own systems, this was a very, very imperfect week. And yet, every single day, what I did do was lace up, and I ran, head cold and all. And every single time I was out there, one word kept showing up for me. Not a strategy, not a framework, just a word. Freedom. And that's what I want to talk about with all of you today. Here's the question I think that is worth sitting with, not just for you as a leader, but for me too. When your systems bend under pressure, what actually holds for you? Now, not to be confused, I'm not talking about what should hold, and I'm also not talking about what your performance review says should hold. What actually, in practice, in the middle of a hard week, keeps you moving? Because the reason why I ask is that a lot of us who are serious about leadership and personal development, we all build really good external systems and we track habits. We build frameworks. We schedule reflection time and we put the right things on the calendar. And those systems work. And I'm not here to tell you to throw them all out. We have them for a reason as leaders. But systems are structures, and structures do bend under pressure. And what I've been thinking about this week is the thing underneath the structure, the thing that holds when the structure softens. I want to call it your private anchor. It's not your mission statement, okay? It's not your leadership philosophy. It's not the thing that you would say in a keynote or write in a blog post. Your private anchor is the practice, the ritual, the declaration, or the physical act that nobody sees you do, that restores you to yourself when you have drifted. And for some leaders, it's physical. A run, a walk, a specific route at a specific time of day. And for others, it's prayer, or for others, it's a meditation practice. And even for some, it's a journal entry written badly and honestly at 6 a.m. Maybe for some others, it's 15 minutes alone in a car before walking into the office. The form doesn't matter, but what matters is that it's yours. It's consistent. And it connects you back to who you actually are underneath all the roles that you are playing. Mine this week were the miles. Even when the meditation slipped, even when the journaling got sparse, I ran. And when I was running, something settled. The noise in my head quieted. Not because the obligations disappeared, but rather because I was doing the one thing that at a cellular level reminds me that I am capable. A few years ago, I built a personal mantra. Now, I won't recite it verbatim here because it's mine and some things should stay private, but it's a series of declarations that I repeat to myself when it gets hard. Things that I needed to hear myself say before I fully believed them. I still say them. I say them on long runs. I say them when a week like this one accumulates around me. And they work. Not because they're magic words, but because I built them at a moment when I was deciding who I was going to become before I fully became it. And that is identity work. And identity work is the most private, least celebrated, and honestly, the most important work that a leader can do. I want to connect this back to something I explored on this show before. In episode 45, I talked about guardrails. The idea that the goal isn't perfection, it's having something to return to when you're going to drift. Now, most of us hear that and think it means a system or a rule, a checklist, a standard operating procedure. But a guardrail is not a checklist. A guardrail is a commitment so internalized that it survives a bad week. It's the thing you do even when you don't feel like it, even when you have a head cold, even when nobody is watching, or tracking, or applauding. Then in episode 46, I talked about small wins and why momentum matters more than magnitude. Now, a 5-mile run when you're under the weather, it is not heroic by any means. It is not a story that you would tell at a dinner party, but here's what it is. It's a deposit into the account of the person that you are becoming. And you know what? Those deposits, they compound. The leaders I respect most aren't the ones who perform resilience. The leaders I respect the most who do the small, private, mundane thing on a Tuesday when everything else is slipping. That's what resilience actually looks like from the inside. Now, here's what I want to challenge you on directly, because this really matters. Now, you might be listening to this and running a quick internal audit. Meditation, missed 3 days this week. Journaling, inconsistent. Nutrition, let it slide a little bit. And your inner critic is calling that failure. Here's what I want you to do. I really want you to do this. I want you to push back on that voice that's calling yourself a failure. Missing a habit for a week, that's not failure. I will tell you that that's called friction, and failure and friction, two very different things. There is a significant difference because failure is deciding that the habit no longer matters. Failure, well, that's removing it from the calendar entirely. Failure is telling yourself that you're not the kind of person who meditates or journals or runs, so why bother? That's failure. But surviving a hard week, carrying more than usual, staying under the weather, losing a few reps of your normal routine, and still protecting the one anchor that holds, that is actually not falling short of your standard. That is actually your standard. The standard is not perfection. The standard is returned. And so what? You drifted. I drifted. And I noticed. And I came back. And that is the whole practice. So here's what I want to leave you with today. If you don't know what your private anchor is yet, that is the work. It's not a leadership book. It's not the new productivity system. It's not the next course or certification you have to take. The work is figuring out what in your life consistently returns you to yourself. What's the one practice that even in a bad week, even under sustained pressure, you will protect? And if you do not know what it is, the question is whether you're treating it with seriousness it deserves and not scheduling around the important things and scheduling it as one of the important things. And so for me right now, it's the miles. Every step out there is a reminder that I am capable of doing hard things, that I did choose this, that the weight I am carrying is not a burden I stumbled into, but rather it is a life that I have built on purpose. That is not a small thing. That is literally everything. And remember, as I often say, leadership, it isn't about perfection. It is about progress. Take this lesson, put it into action, and continue setting the gold standard in your own life and at work. I'll see you all next time.